Hey guys, this is Angie from Angie's Quilting Studio, and today I am going to be working on a quilt called Trip Around the World. On this quilt, the reason why I decided to do the quilt, the Trip Around the World quilt, is because I had all this fabric. I had about 12 fat quarters of fabric that I purchased from Fat Quarter Shop, and I'll link them below. And it was a surprise grab bag fabric, and it had a lot of fall colors in it. So I was trying to decide what to make with that. So I decided on Trip Around the World, and I cut up a lot of my fabric, as you'll see, with my AccuQuilt Go. So I made strips with my AccuQuilt Go. It's 2.5 inch strips with my fat quarters, and I am subcutting them into 2.5 inch squares. So I just laid them like this first and cut them. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut them into squares. And how I do that is I kind of line them up here, fold that over. I do that until I get to the very end here. And it will cut off the selvage edge of my fabric. And I can do 8 at a time. I'm sure I could do more, because with this AccuQuilt Go, you can cut up to 6 layers, which I may go ahead and do a couple more. I only have, 3 strips left from my stash here. So I'll go ahead and just put in a couple more just to get it done. The AccuQuilt Go is a big time saver, because I will show you in a minute how many of these squares that I cut up. And it just took me, it took me a couple hours yesterday, and then maybe a couple hours today just to get them done. Okay, so I have all of these laid out, and I'll put my mat, which it came with my 2.5 inch strip die, but you can buy these mats separately as well, because they do get worn out after a while. So, and I made sure that my AccuQuilt Go is turned on, and I'm going to go ahead and run this through. It's pretty fast. Just give it a good sweep across the top, and you always take the mat off like sideways instead of straight up and down, because it is staticky and it'll pull all of them up at the same time. We don't want that. So here is the cuts that it made. A perfect little 2.5 inch square. So I'll get these all situated and I'll show you what I've cut. Okay, and so here are all the cuts that I've made so far. I have several stacks here, and I'll just keep stacking them up. I'm just separating them out as far as the fabric goes. Now that I have all those pieces off my die, if you notice, there's lots of little strings and little pieces that I have that I'm going to be throwing away, but to get the strings off of my die, I just use a lint roller, regular lint roller, and I just run it over it. And make sure it's all nice and clean. And then, oops. And then when I store this, it says it's best to store them up like this. I put them in a storage tote and just store them up like this, just on their side, so they don't warp. So what I did, I put these on my design wall in my hallway, and I just laid out the blocks in a row, 11 by 11, and just did it diagonally for all the blocks. And I'm gonna make 4 of these. I've got to sew these all together, and I'm gonna make 4 exactly like it, and then I'll turn them around, and that will be the beginning of my quilt. Like I said, I have to make 4 of these. It'll be the exact same. All 4 of these will be the exact same. So I'll get started on that. So how I gather these is I take them off one at a time. The first one goes on top of the second one, and then goes on top like this. And this is how I keep them organized. Then I will take the top one and just put it down here. Take the second one and put that on top. Then I'll do the same thing with the second one, and that's how I'll sew it. Just do one at a time. Sew here, take the one from the top, put this over here, and then that's how I sew. I just do it in like a chain, and I do a 1/4 inch seam. So one of the keys to this pattern is to make sure that you just keep everything in order. Like I have it all, I've just been laying them out in rows as I'm sewing, and there's really no need to iron or to press until all this whole row gets done, because you're not going to match anything up over here. It's just going to go straight into a row. So once I get this row all sewn together, I'll just go ahead and press that and then move on to my next row. I keep this near my sewing machines. So what I do is I just sew everything all together, and I don't press anything. I just sew it all together. And I have another iron that I use, but I just have this little handheld one I got for, I don't know, 20 bucks maybe. I use that just to iron my seams open. And so I iron those open. I have this clapper, which it absorbs the heat, so it makes the seams flatter. I think I got this off Amazon. I'm not for sure. I'll link it below. And then I just lay them. I'll show you how I have those flat, all in an order on my design board. So when I say iron these open, I really mean press them open. So basically, I'm just holding it there for a little bit, just pressing, going up, and then holding it down for a second or two, going up, and then going back down. And the reason why you do that is because you don't want to warp the fabric, or just make it all crooked and it'll stay like that. So you just want to just do up and down with the iron. So I thought I would share a little video while I'm quilting this quilt. Consistency is the key whenever you're quilting a quilt. And this, I have an example for you of why I'm telling you this, because now I have to rip out all of my quilt. So just one moment, and I'll turn you around. Okay. Sorry, my dog is barking. So, okay, if you notice that I have this done, sorry, this is a small hallway. So I have this part done, and then I have this part is going in the middle. It's like a sashing. And then I have this part. So this part was quilted on my featherweight. And on the featherweight, I kind of, at the end of this, I thought, well, my blocks are too small. I'm not sure what's going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch to my baby lock. So I did on this one, and this one. I switched my baby lock and I'm not done with this one yet. But if you noticed on this, here's my sashing, my blocks on here are a lot smaller. So that means, and you can see right here how they're not lining up. Sorry, my dog. So what I'm gonna have to do is just rip all of this part out and sew that onto my baby lock. So just a lesson, consistency is a key. If you're using one type of sewing foot, maybe a scant 1/4 of an inch or just a regular 1/4 of an inch, make sure, it doesn't matter what you use, just make sure you're consistent with them and then everything will turn out great. Hope that helps. Okay, so everything is sewn together. Well, not everything's sewn together, the 4 blocks. So we have this block, we have this block, and this block. We have 4 like quadrants is what it is, with some sashing in between. So I made 4 sashings that were exactly alike. And there's 1, there's 2, 3, and 4. So if you notice, there's kind of a theme going on with the circle. That's the round of the world. So what's left is to sew this row together. So I'm going to do the bottom row first. This I've already sewn. I couldn't wait. I wanted to see what it looked like. But this piece would have been separate. So there's one row, and then so you sew these 3 together. Then I'm going to sew these 3 together. So this is counted as 1. So 1, 2, 3. Once I get done with those, then I will sew this middle one onto this one, and then this one onto these. So once I get all of that sewn up, I will show you how it turned out. I may make it a little bit bigger with a couple of borders, but we'll see how it goes once I get everything sewn together.